this is the second part of the report on environmental lobbying, the international context of environmental lobbying. So in this report, we're going to discuss the laws, the acts, the agreements, the ways of the different nations with regards to the protection of the environment. And nations all over the world have realized the importance of environment and the preservation and its preservation. So this is the reason why they created the Declaration of the United Nations Conference on Human Environment. So this was held in Stockholm, June 15 to 16, 1972. And then they considered the need for a common outlook and for a common principle, or rather common principles to inspire and guide the people of the world in the preservation and enhancement of the human environment. So this declaration or the conference also stated that the protection of the environment is major issue that affects the well-being of people and economic development throughout the world. This is the urgent desire of the peoples of the world and the duty of all governments. So they have acknowledged the role of the government, that it affects the life of every individual in every country, as well as the economic growth of the country. And then this conference is a way to demand acceptance of responsibility with equal effort by people, communities, institutions, and enterprises at every entry level in order to achieve an environmental goal. So they have set environmental goals which aims to protect the environment, and they are demanding acceptance of the responsibility. So they are demanding that people will be responsible in helping them achieving this environmental goal. So not only people, but also communities, institutions, enterprises, and the governments. So this declaration or the Conference of Human Environment also emphasized the role of the local and national governments of different countries. So it says that the local and national governments carry more responsibility when it comes to large-scale environmental policy and action within their area of responsibilities. International cooperation is needed in order to raise resources to support the developing countries in carrying out their responsibilities in this field. So when it comes to large-scale environmental policy, like creating laws to protect the environment, the conference is giving the responsibility to the local and national governments of different countries. So in order to be able to save or conserve the natural resources of different countries, they are also suggesting international cooperation so that developing nations can raise resources for their environment. So those developed or well-developed nations will be helping those developing countries and underdeveloped countries to raise resources in order for them not to really exploit their natural resources. So there are a couple of drawbacks, however, when we talk about the declaration of the United Nations Conference on Human Environment. Because first, environment plays major role in economy, especially in developing countries. So developing countries rely greatly on their natural resources. So you really cannot expect them to do things that can help, or do a lot of things that can preserve their natural resources, because basically they would prefer to make their economic better than preserve their environment. So principles and agreements are easier said than done. Yes, when you create laws, when you create agreements, when you sign treaties or everything, it's a lot easier to sign with it, but implementing it into your own jurisdiction or in your own country is really a hard thing to do. So especially if you're going, or if you're um, going against the big companies, big manufacturers, big factories who are investing in your country and bringing big revenues. So basically, it will be expected that you prefer their will, or their intentions, rather than saving the environment. So again, it is a lot easier to exploit countries' environment for development. The benefits of government can have from exploiting natural resources weighs more than that weighs more that it is so hard to resist. So like if you're have big factories in your country, and then um and they, of course, they're bringing lots of monies because they're investments. So even though they're harmful for the government, for that sorry natural resources, like they're throwing their waste on the river and the sea, but because they bring money which can help improve the economy of your country, therefore you would prefer them more, rather than asking them to close just to save the environment. So underdeveloped and developing nations prefer economic gains over saving the environment. So now, because of these drawbacks, and for some unclear other policies, this leads to the Rio Declaration on Environment and Development. So this is another conference, United Nations conference, that was held in Rio de Janeiro last June 3 to 14, 1992. And the main goal of this conference is to reaffirm the Declaration of the United Nations Conference on Human Environment, adopted at Stockholm on June 16, 1972, and seeking to build it. So yeah, they have agreed everything about the environment in Stockholm. So this is the role of the Rio Declaration, to reaffirm the role of the countries, to remind them of what their responsibilities are, and also to create maybe clearer policies. So this is the goal of the Rio Declaration of Environment and Development. So basically, the declaration proclaims that nations have the right to exploit the use of their natural resources based on their environmental and developmental policies. It is also the responsibility of the nation to ensure that activities are within their jurisdiction or control, not to cause damage to the environment of the other states or areas beyond the limits of national jurisdiction. So this means that the Rio Declaration allows, or let the countries exploit their natural resources, provided that they will not cross borders, or they will not cause any harm or damage to the states near their jurisdiction, or to the countries or their neighboring countries. So this is basically what makes Rio, or the general, or the major drawback of the Rio Declaration on Environment and Development, because environment, as we all know, is interconnected. You cannot limit one in just one place, because what happens in the one part of the globe will happen to the other part of the globe. Let's say, for example, the air. We all breathe the same air in the same planet. So, for example, one country exploits its natural resources too much, causes too much air pollution. They will suffer from it, but sooner or later, the neighboring countries will also experience the effects of the air pollution, and eventually it will spread in the other parts of the globe because of the air. Air is everywhere. So that's why we can experience its effects, ill effects, if it's polluted. Another example is global warming. Not all countries are producing high amount or huge amount of greenhouse gases, but all countries are experiencing increase of temperature because of the global warming. So we can say that although it's not really intended, but although what they're doing, exploiting their natural resources, is limited to their jurisdiction, then again, the effects of it are felt by almost all countries all over the world.